Good evening. Welcome along to the Gwladys Beat. Thanks for joining us. Tonight, I'm joined by Dawn and by Scott. Welcome aboard. We hope you're having a good week. Life looks a little bit better after an FA Cup tie last weekend, which we'll have a little chat about in a couple of minutes' time. We'll ask, where's our Leicester City game gone? And try and work out which rules have been made up this week to take it away from us. We'll hopefully have a little look and a bit more of a confident look at a trip to Norwich that's coming up on the horizon. And then we'll have a little play around with a few transfers as well. Anything else that you think we should be talking about or you'd want us to talk about, please throw us a message. And as long as we have the technology being able to read the messages, we'll gladly have a look at them and see and throw a few comments in. But welcome along. So I suppose, as I say, the easiest way to go was the end of the day, surely a win's a win. Are we happy with last Saturday?
I don't know about happy, but you take the win. Now, I don't know if you remember when we done the prediction on the last podcast. I actually said they'll score straight away, and I thought we'd win 3-1. But you just knew it was. It's just like they need to be hit first before they wake up. And it was just you just knew it was coming. And then as soon as we give that free kick away, you thought, this is it. This is it.
Yeah. There is a weird nervousness about us as we start the game, isn't it? You do wonder sort of how they're sent out and wonder what concept, because, Michael Keane, first touch, looked desperate, looked nervous, gives the ball away, gives the free kick away. And like you say, Scott, 45 seconds later with a goal down. So were you abusing the television, Dawn, at that point, or were you confident we were coming back?
I was there. I didn't see extra time. I'd stormed out and gone to the pub by that point. I wasn't the only one, by the way. There was a number of Evertonians leaving after normal time. I don't understand. I know the players aren't really confident because of the run of games and stuff, but the crowd were boss and the crowd was behind them to start with. So there's no reason why they should start shaky. Yeah. It's the first prediction I've ever got right. I said 3-2, but we didn't say on normal time. But there's always going to be goals in it because, like Scott said, we probably concede early. We're always probably going to concede more than one goal. And just, you saw the lineup and thought, oh God, like 5 at the back against Hull. What did you think, Nick, when you saw the lineup?
I was a little surprised. I felt whilst he was clearly going to go and be a little cautious. I think at the start of the game, I think it was over respectful. I think I would have gone 4-4-2 maybe and just pushed at them. As we said at the predictions last show, they are bottom half of a championship. They're not top half. They're not on a really good run. They'd had a couple of wins in 8. They weren't really a form side, and we sort of just relaxed into the game. I think, again, as we said after the last match, I'm not sure the players knew where they were. That was why we had that dodgy 15 minutes, because I'm really not sure. You threw, obviously, the new kid in, the new Ukrainian lad in, and he had to find his feet. A couple of the others were still sort of working out which sides of the defence they were playing. It was a strange one, wasn't it, Scott?
Yeah, like some of it, like you're saying at the back there, some of it was like watching little kids where they're just like mots and they all try to go for the ball. At some points there was 3 defenders going over one side for the same ball, and then when it was coming over the other side, the middle one and the other 2 were sort of gravitating towards it, and it just did look disorganised. And to be fair, as much as Rafa's to blame for the tactics, I still can't get over the amount of mistakes they make. And you know what? A manager can set you up to play any tactics he wants, but if you can't play a ball to a blue shirt, there's no way. The tactics aren't to blame for that.
Yeah, I completely agree. Like I think we said last week, we can blame the manager for a lot of things, but some of the mistakes were. It was what's his name? Burn, isn't it, for Brighton? The tallest player on the pitch left on his own. You can't blame the manager for that. You've got to blame the players for that. But the thing I will blame him for is putting 5 at the back. They obviously don't understand the system, like you've just said. They're all over the place. If you play a back 4, everyone knows the jobs. It's pretty straightforward. If you need to go defensive, have Alan sitting in front of them and he can drop in whenever you need him. I don't understand why we're playing 5, we're putting Kenny in. I mean, fair dues, he created the second goal, but I just think it's really negative to go away to, like you say, Nick, a team at the bottom of the league below us and put 5 at the back.
Yeah. It took us 20 minutes, didn't it? And then once we'd got that sort of level of understanding into place, I thought we looked quite good for the second half of the second half of the first half, if that makes sense. I think we started to get a grip of it and use the ball well as players came into the game. But you know what worried me again was, and I'm a stuck record with the zonal marking, but every time they got a corner, your heart was in your mouth. I mean, the first goal was appalling. You know, your biggest players missed the ball. Your new signing dives under the ball, and one of the smallest players on the pitch.
Who added it's 5'9".
Yeah, absolutely. And then he clearly nearly scored straight after it again with another one. And then, you know, literally every time the ball was in the box, it doesn't work. But, you know, we had it with Silva, didn't he? He wouldn't change his mind. He was sticking his own regardless. And I think that causes a nervousness. I think you can see the players are uncomfortable with it, but they're being sent out to do it. But I suppose looking more at the positives, once we did get the ball and play, then there were some decent performances. Gray, I thought Gomez looked quite good. It wasn't too bad. And you thought half time, this should be all right. But then what happened?
Until they score. See, but it's hard though, but you know, like you just it's sort of been the same as I've said in the past, where I think everybody watching can see we needed a bit of injection of pace up front going on.
Yeah.
And he just persisted with runs on again. And I'm all for giving the guy a chance, but there comes a time when you think, like, you've had a chance now. And, you know, it used to be historically you'd expect to change 65 minutes, but it just seems to get later and later with him. And you hear a lot of talk about Rafa being stubborn. And I think that is starting to tell now at some points in the game when, you know, you look at the bench, you know, that Dobbin's got pace, and fair enough, we don't know exactly what he's all about yet at that level, but surely he's going to have had a better chance at that point in the game, late on in the second, not late on, say midway through the second half, let him run at them, because they did look like they were flagging. You know.
But the thing with Rondon's, like, it's dead unfair because he doesn't put himself on the pitch. Like, he's not good enough, in my opinion. He's not good enough. But he doesn't put himself on the pitch. The manager puts him on the pitch. And then at some point in the crowd, I had a little mini meltdown screaming at all the Evertonians, stop booing because it's not helping. Because every time he was getting the ball, we were booing him. He's our player. He's not good enough, but he doesn't put himself on there.
No, and he's playing a game that the manager's clearly telling him to do. He's putting him on there. He's putting his 5 at the back. And he's going, get the ball up front, and he's looking for Rondon to hold it up. And that's probably about the sum total of the best part of his game. He has got a bit of strength to hold off a defender and hold the ball up. It then needs the other players around him to get up there. And you're spot on.
He needs another striker. Yeah. Like I said last time he played with Richarlison, he brought Rondon on late, and he did create a little bit. But there's no point having him up there on his sod. He's stuck in the mud, isn't he? And the only decent chance he did have, he went over too easy. So, like, I don't know. Give the kid a chance. I'm banging that drum again.
No, I think you're right. You know, I think at the end of the day, I think you're spot on, Dawn. Booing helps nobody. We talked about this last week. You know, I don't know what supporter thinks that, oh, yeah, I'm just going to sit there, boo and insult a player. And he'll play brilliant then because I'm shouting at him. You know, what idiot thinks that works? So I don't get it. And I'm unapologetic if I'm slagging fans off at times. Need to give the heads a wobble. It doesn't help getting on people's backs.
Yeah, because we were generally, I mean, it was after that first goal, wasn't it? The boos for the team as well. And it's like, if you're a player, like you mentioned Michael Keane before, nervous on the first ball. If he's nervous to start with, we can see it's a goal. Yeah, it's not good enough. But if we start doing them, it's going to get worse, not better.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, at the end of the day, they got the results. And I sort of, I'm sure we'll tuck into Twitter and some of the numpties on there at the moment. But I think, there was somebody put up, I think it's a guy, I think it might have been Richie from the Heritage Society, to be credit to him. And he was talking about, people just need to realise we've got through a cup tie. He said, I've seen us play brilliant games of football. And he referred to the Grimsby game. Now, again, you two are far too young to probably remember it. But it was when we were in the glory days of the 84-85. We played Grimsby at the Park in a League Cup game. Beautiful football, but never scored a goal. They got one corner in the 92nd minute and scored from it. We ended up signing the striker. You might remember Wilkinson that we signed after that. But that's football. And if you look at the whole concept of it, we won at Hull and we're in the next round and we've got a winnable tie against Brentford now. I'm not sure why people are really giving their head shakes like they were in the booing.
Yeah, I think it's just a frustration, isn't it? Like we said last week, we promised so much for so long, and it's just, I mean, I'm not a booer, but I didn't stay for extra time. So, when I support my team, I just get too frustrated with it because it was just generally a shocking performance, and I thought I'd be calmer if I went to the pub, which I was. Nice glass of wine, sort it out.
See, I'd never boo. I've never booed. Sometimes I ever go with the booers in the Gwladys, and I can't help it. I just have to. But I do understand the frustration sometimes, particularly with the defence at set pieces and the dead balls, just because it is frustrating. And I think it's a big sign of how much you miss Yerry Mina, because I remember in one of his games early on, he had something like the most headed clearances in the Prem in one game. And if he's the one doing all that work, well, you can tell because they're just flying in. They're just flying in. So I don't get me wrong, I know he's not the best in the world, but if he was doing that job, that's his job.
Yeah. Absolutely. So who came out with credit then? Who do we think came out with a bit of credit out of that game?
Townsend for me, because I was like, why is Townsend on the bench? He only broke his foot like a few weeks ago, and apparently he's been hounding Benitez to get back on the team. I saw his goal, like, one, attitude to just get back in there and help the team, and two, he's pulled a couple of important goals out for us, like the equaliser against United and stuff like that. So for me, him, I liked Gomez's header.
Yeah.
No one ever cuts through the lines of the defenders. They usually stay where they are. And another great performance by Gordon, really, for me.
Yeah. I do think I know Begovic hasn't played a lot. I don't think he had a bad game, but I think that save down to his left, that was a really good save. And don't get me wrong, I'm not a fan of Begovic, but to not have played much at all game wise and come out with that save, that's kept you in it, essentially. That if that goes in, the wheels fall off and you're gone. So he's got to get some credit for that, and he did look like he enjoyed it. And like Dawn said, them names you mentioned there, you can't go wrong. I think Gordon just looked a bit knackered, and that's why he come off. I think if he had a bit more energy left there, he would have stayed on. And I do think he's got to keep playing Gomez, because he's got that little turn, drive you forward, lay it off, and keep going himself, looking for something. So
no, I agree with you. I mean, it's funny you mentioned Begovic. I was just going to say the same thing. I mean, there was a discussion in our household. Me and Cal were like, as it was creeping towards the potential of penalties, it was like, do you use your last sub and bring Pickford on for the penalties? Because after Begovic's performance at QPR, where he never got a sniff of any of the 8 penalties that they scored, do you going to make the save? And then, to be fair, he pulled that worldie out to actually mean we didn't need penalties. So I agree with you. Credit to him for that save. Like, he did quite well. What do you think? Sorry, Dawn.
I was just going to say, but why was he in the team? It's not like Pickford needed a rest. Do you know what I mean?
Is it just inclusion? It becomes a bit of a standing issue with managers, doesn't it? With cup ties, you give your reserve keeper. I was just watching a little bit of the Chelsea Spurs game before we started here tonight, and they've gone with the reserve keeper, Tottenham, even though they need to win the tie to get to the final. So it seems to be a bit of a managerial thing in the cup, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Strange, but yeah. hopefully as we get closer to the final, you know, Pickford plays the games, but yeah.
It's a long road, that, Nick.
You never know. I'm already past Brentford.
Glad you are.
I know. Our new fullback, I didn't think he did bad, considering he apparently can't speak a word of English and whatever else. But the great brain dead of Twitter have already decided he's rubbish and we should be selling him in the summer, haven't they? Some of them. So, what do you think?
Go ahead, Scott.
I think they're mad. I think. Do you know what? He's come into that tie in a really underperforming side.
Yeah.
And stats-wise, he's done well.
Yeah.
Apparently, stats-wise, from what I've seen, he has a really good game. For me, he didn't look amazing, but who did in that back five? Absolutely nobody. I think with him coming in and the other Ad Patterson coming in, it's just crying out for a four at the back. And I think once they're settled in, I think it will be, because, you know what? How can you criticise him after that? The game was a shambles for a large part of it. They were all over the place. I don't know enough about the lad to know if he normally plays in a five at the back, but I very much doubt it, because not many teams do. No. So, you know, you got to give him some credit. He never has a bad game. I know Hull aren't the best side in the world, but he by no means looked rubbish.
No,
and he's only going to get better.
Yeah, he put the most tackles in, made the most tackles at the defense. So fair dues to him, yeah.
And tackles, and I believe he had some good interceptions of the ball, and you know, his passing stats were good. So it's got to count for something.
I know, but you can't help but scratch your head, can you, when you see people going, I thought he was rubbish. But anyway, we'll ignore a few of them for now. Yeah.
To be honest, I wasn't impressed, but
yeah, okay.
I didn't think he was.
You missed the best part when you got off.
Oh yeah.
You did actually well next time. Yeah.
Sorry, only messing.
I didn't think he did great. Like you say, no one played great in the back five. He just looked a bit. He's only been training with us for a week or so, hadn't he? He looked a bit all over the place for me. He didn't look very strong, and the amount of money we pay for him, which isn't that far off what we're getting for Dean, you would expect someone who was a bit more ready to go. I would assume that Patterson is a bit more ready to go on the right-hand side.
Yeah. Time will tell. For what it was worth, I thought it was a little harsh, people sort of writing him off after one game. But
it is, you know, because sometimes I've watched the game myself and I haven't particularly highlighted someone as having a good game. Yeah. And then the stats come out and they have actually had a really good game. Yeah. It just hasn't been noticed because they might have made X amount of passes, but just because they're not a 30-yard ball sprayed to a striker, you don't really notice it. So even if I agree with it, he didn't look amazing to me, but he didn't look awful. But, you know, if the bookworms are telling us he has a good game, then he has, hasn't he? Do you know what I mean? But I'm not completely sold yet, but I think he's got to do all right, hasn't he? I think.
Give him a season. Give him the season at least, and then start doing it. Because you're right, you know, it is bringing out, and you know, people will inevitably go, well, he's not Luca Dean with his supply, but then Luca Dean's defending has been horrendous, and at the minute we probably need a defender more than we need an attack and fullback. But you know,
the real question is, will he do it for us in the Championship? Though that's
Scott. Trust me, it's not that bad yet.
You can't say that on here, Scott.
I'm only joking.
So cut him off, Nick.
I know. So we're in the next round, and that was the main thing. And so we were all bubbling, and we rearranged tonight so that we could come and talk about how we played well against Leicester City. And then it's suddenly gone. You'd hear rumours Leicester are going to put an application in, and they've suddenly got it. What do we think? Because for me, the rules seem to be changing week in, week out. It was originally, it was COVID and injuries. But now it seems if you've got, you know, somebody, your bucket man's gone to the African nations to carry a bucket, you're going to get a postponement or something. What is going on? It doesn't seem a little logical to me.
See, I wasn't sure, especially with them playing in the FA Cup. Yeah. But someone explains it to me today in work that the rules are different in the FA Cup.
Okay.
Now, I understand that because you find a lot of the bigger teams in the early rounds play loads of kids, and them kids won't be named in the Premier League squad. So I think you can field anyone in the FA Cup, whereas in the Prem, you need to have so many from your official Premier League starting 25, don't that your 25-man squad. So I think that's how they were. Not necessarily that they wanted to, but they could play the FA Cup game.
Yeah.
But with the guidance for the Prem, they could pull out of it.
Right, okay.
The thing is, like you said, it was brought in for COVID. So you go, my understanding is that it was based on injuries and African nations, in which case it's not COVID. Suck it up and get on with it. You knew they were going to the African nations. Everyone's got injuries. We've had loads of injuries. Do you know what I mean? Suck it up and get on with it. Because Klopp come out, didn't he, and said, oh, sorry, there was a few false positives in there. So they've postponed games that really they shouldn't have.
Yeah. It does seem a little hit and miss at the moment. I mean, I saw an interesting one when he seen it with Ralph Rangnick, the Southampton manager. He was sort of having a bit of a grumble in quite a polite way, sort of saying, well, okay, if the game's off, then when you replay the game, you should only be able to use the players you had registered at the time. I think his little dig was the likes of Newcastle are getting as many games off as they can, and so that they can play the new signings and have a stronger team. There may have been a little dig at Liverpool there as well, who were trying to get every game off until Salah and Mane come back. And it's should they be able to play, or should you go, well, it was called off while they were away, so you can't play them?
I don't think they should be allowed to play. It's part of the season, isn't it? It's part of their their international commitments, if you like. That shouldn't even come into it for me. Like, do you remember a few years ago, Liverpool were top of the league, and Mane went to the African nations and come back, and they dropped right down the table. I mean, probably not as low as us, but they dropped. And sort of, it does have an impact, but that's part of the season. They always have it every 2 years.
Yeah. You know, it's going to be hard to prove, but tactically, some of these clubs are going to benefit from getting a couple of postponements and then coming back a bit later and with stronger squads. I mean, you know, again, as good old days of playing Sunday League football, they used to have conference dates. So if your game, certainly your cup game, was called off, then you when you replayed the cup game, you had to have been registered for the original date, or you couldn't play. And it puts an interesting slant on things. I'm sure some people will disagree, but you know, certainly Newcastle have had a couple of games off now. They buy a few players, they're going to be coming back with stronger players.
Yeah, well, that was one for us as well, wasn't it? They played. Callum Wilson got injured on St. Maximum.
Yeah.
I don't know if someone else did as well, and then they cancelled our game, and you knew it was coming because the two best players are injured. That's not fair. Because if you remember last season, I know COVID was worse last season.
Yeah.
We were top of the league or whatever, and City was struggling, which sounds weird.
Yeah.
And they said they had 5 players who had COVID, so they couldn't play.
Yeah.
So, and then when they did play us, they battered us. Which is
what's 5 players out of that squad? It's mad, isn't it?
Yeah. They could play one of us and they'd still win. I'm 61 and they'd still win. But it's just a little annoying, isn't it? You know, you for us as fans, you know, okay, the argument is they're trying to call the games off as early as possible to avoid travelling. I get that and appreciate that, because there's been some horror stories, hasn't there, games called off 2 hours before kick-off after people have left 5 hours earlier to get to the game. I think that's good, but you just want the games to be played now because you sort of build your day around it.
The problem is, as well, is when are you going to fit them in now?
Yeah.
When are you going to fit them in? Because it could potentially... I know we're talking about some teams getting a benefit from it, but what about the teams that it's going to have a negative effect on?
Yeah.
You know, it works both ways potentially. Like, it could be awful for some.
Yeah. Well, you look at Liverpool and Klopp moaning about the Christmas period, the build up of fixtures, and with their false positives, they've created more of a backlog of fixtures and then he'll start moaning about that, but he's created it himself.
Yeah. Yeah, you're right, Dawn. There's numerous ways to look at this, and people will have their difference of opinion. It's more, I like playing games when you've won a game, when you're on a bit of a roll. So you'll see. So while we're rolling all the way for a 7.5 hour round trip or something to Norwich on Saturday. Those of us that have done it before, it's probably the most horrendous, lengthy trip. It's a fair bit of drinking time if you're enjoying yourself, but it's a long journey, innit? So
I couldn't drink that much water, Nick.
Absolutely, mate. Absolutely. Yeah. How's a case on the coffee? I'll have drunk by then, but it is. It's an interesting old fixture, that one. But for us, it's such an important game, isn't it?
It's mad, isn't it, to think that like playing Norwich, who are bottom of the league, is a must-win game for us. It's ridiculous, but I mean, if he's got to stop the back five, he's got to go there with an attacking team and go for it, but a convincing win to give the team a bit of confidence.
See, you know what the scary thing is? It's not even that it's a must-win. What's scary for me is now you've seen me in the past how positive I've been. They've only scored 8 goals all season, and I don't feel confident going. I honestly, they're getting beat now while we're talking. I think last checked at half time they were getting beat 1-0 by West Ham, and I just don't feel confident. God knows how I'll feel if we look at the lineup an hour before the game and he's got 5 at the back, because I'm sure, honestly, you know, like I don't normally like to say I got things right, but when we said last time, we've just said now about they were all over the place playing the 5 at the back.
Yeah.
And I'd said in the podcast, just play 4-4-2. If you can play 4-4-2, it's the easiest formation. Everybody knows the roles. It's not difficult. Anyone who knows the basic knowledge of football knows where they should be, when they should be there, where they should be when they're going forward, where they should be when they're going back. Yeah. Now, how are you going to feel if you honestly, if you look at that lineup and he's got 5 at the back again, away to the team bottom in the league? I think they're on like 9 points or 8.8 goals all season. I'll just be devastated if he is.
No, I mean, interestingly, this week you probably saw Decore come out and pretty much say we should be playing not 2 in the centre of midfield, which is, I think he's right. I mean, I worry, you know, the way we've seen people speak out against Rafa, and next minute you shipped off somewhere else. I don't think he's stupid enough to do that to Decore, but hopefully there's a bit of pressure there from Decore to make him do that, because looking at what we potentially have available, Dawn, there should be Mina's training, so you could basically slot him back. You could put the new fullback in. You could go 4, and then you bring Calvert-Lewin and Charlison back up front. But will he?
Yeah, definitely away from the back 5. Like for me, I wouldn't try both the new fullbacks at the same time. So I'd give Patterson a run out, and I'd put Godfrey at left back, bring Mina straight in if he's fit enough. Yeah. I know what you say, Scott, about 4-4-2 is dead easy. Everyone knows the jobs. I just don't think our centre midfield is strong enough with 2 in there. So I'd have a 4-3-3 probably, or something like that. And I've obviously Alec, Gomez and Decore, with probably start with Gray and Gordon and DCL, or DCL up front. Have Richarlison to come off the bench if he's fit enough, but go for it, something attack minded.
I think you'll have to, because, you know, to be fair to Smith there, he's got them scrapping again, you know, and he's got a pedigree for it. He got Villa out a couple of years ago, or last year, was it? It was last year, wasn't he? He got that run with Villa and they stayed up on the back of it. He's going to get a team scrapping. We can't go there, I think, with 5 at the back and let them come on to us, or you'll invite them in.
Yeah.
You know, like, you know, you can see it coming. Pookie hasn't hit a barn door in 3 months, and he'll probably just stream through and get a couple, won't he? What were you saying before, Scott? What are the listeners? Who else is going to pop up and score?
Kieran Zawel, probably. Big screamer.
Yeah.
I hope not. You know, I do, and it's difficult looking the lineup. I do like the thought of the 4-3-3. And as much as I like how Gordon's been, when we at the start of the season, when we had Gray down one side and Townsend down the other, and then balls were coming in and Calvert-Lewin wasn't there because he was injured.
Yeah.
It'd just be great if you could sort of get that going again. But Anthony Gordon's been that good. You can't not play him. He deserves to start. Out of everyone on that pitch, he deserves to play.
Yeah,
I think that's one of the positive things that has come out of the injuries, because he wouldn't have got a sniff, would he otherwise? And he's grown as a player. He's matured, and it's boss to see. Well, he's an Evertonian, isn't he?
Absolutely. I mean, on paper, even with what we've got, we're good enough to go and win there. You're right. They're not a good team. They've got one or two decent players. Beyond that, they're not. But what we can't give them is a goal in 45 seconds, or let them have the impetus for the first 15 or 20. We've got to go out looking different and taking the game to them, in my opinion. And that is a change of tactic. You're right. It's either 4-3-3 or 4-4-2.
Yeah, definitely not 5.
No, it can't be.
No.
Like John Joe Kenny, stay at home, mate.
Yeah. I don't know. He's not let us down, John Joe, has he? I mean, to be fair, he's limited. He is limited in what he can do and what system he can play in. But he's.
Do you know what though? Out of that back 5, he probably looked the most comfortable in it.
Yeah.
Which is sad, but it's true. He didn't look as shaky.
Yeah. No,
but he isn't good enough to stay in.
No, I think you've got to go. You've spent the money. You've identified where you needed to buy players for, and we've got them. So you've got to start putting them into the side. So do we win?
El Ghazi, is it El Ghazi with the winner?
Will we have him by then? We need to get him tomorrow, don't we? I think we'll get on to transfers in a minute. We'll have a ponder on the transfers.
We've got to win.
I probably. If we're doing predictions, I reckon I'd go for maybe. I think we will concede, possibly first, Scott. And I think with the players back and players improving, like Gordon and having Townsend back, I'd go for maybe a 3-1. I would like to think. Please.
I'll go next. I think at some point they've got to not concede. And with Norwich having only scored 8 goals all season, I'd love to sit here and say that they're not going to score past us. But at the same time, I think they might. But I'm going to stick with my guns and I'm going to say Everton 2-0. And I'd love to see Gordon get another goal. And if Calvert-Lewin's playing, I'd love to see him get back on the score sheet. So I was 2-0 Everton.
I was tending to agree with you 2-0, but then I think, no, this is Everton, isn't it? And I think I did in the whole game. Yeah, we should have just had an easy night enjoying. Well, we couldn't travel because my son had COVID, but enjoying the game. But Everton don't give you that, and I just tend to think it'll be the same again. I think we'll get a couple of goals up, and then we'll end up sitting on a 2-1. I think we'll win it, but they won't give us an easy run. So I think it's 2-1, which means all three of us are still thinking we're not quite the finished article. So brings us to the transfer window, which is still open, and some interesting stuff. Let's from an Everton perspective, let's start with Luca Dean. Well, it has divided, I think, Twitterland. Heads have been wobbling and falling off all over the place. Others are more pragmatic on the basis of he's 29. It's a good deal. Where do we sit?
But everyone's slagging him off, going, "Oh, he's been rubbish for seasons. He had that one good season," and you sort of go, "Okay." So what I heard the story was Dean was told he needed to defend more, and he feels he's better as a more offensive fullback, which he is. And he was taken off set plays. So you sort of go, if he's off set plays and he's not allowed to use what he's good at, what's the point in him being there? And when he's come out and gone, I want to leave, which apparently he said, well, if he can't do what he's good at, there's no point in being there. So we don't know, do we? But I'm disappointed. I'm disappointed he's going. offensively, he's created more chances for us and got more assists than anyone else in the team since he's been there. So he's obviously been doing something right. And the other lads, we've only seen him once and he's only trained with us for a week or so, but there's not that much difference in the money that's changing hands, and I think there's a difference in quality. So I'm disappointed that he's going.
Okay.
Yeah, I am also disappointed he's going, to be fair. I think he is a quality player, and you'd only have to look at some of the teams who've been interested in him to know that, and his pedigree speaks for itself. And there was rumours that he criticised the manager's tactics. Well, and like Dawn said, if he's not doing what he wants, not necessarily what he wants to do, but what he is good at and what his best assets are for the team getting put forward, then I can't blame him for going. I am sad, but at the same time, I think, he hasn't created as much recently as he did in the past. And what we do need at the moment, more than a attacking left wing back, is someone who can come in and potentially stop the goals leaking in and help us be more organised at the back. Whether this new man, these two new lads are the ones to do it is yet to be seen. But if that's what we need, that's what we need. I'd have loved him to stay. I like him. I think if you were at the last home game when he was warming up and everybody knew he should have come on when Coleman was playing left back, the reception he got was amazing. And it is sad to see him go because you don't want to lose anyone of that quality, whether they're playing great or not. He's always good to have around, and I'm sure he's a good positive influence around the team. And it is sad, but we just need someone who's better at the back rather than going forwards. And you've as hard as it is at the moment to say you've got to trust the manager, you've got to bestow a little bit of trust in him and hope that he gets it right.
Yeah, no, I tend to agree with your last comments and being maybe a little bit more sort of the other side of the fence. I think it's good business. I think he's 29 and he's to get that amount of money. He's not played well for the season. I think you're right. The first season he was outstanding, and we looked like we got a steal, and everyone was like, "How the hell did Barcelona even get rid of him or whatever?" But it was still at that time. It was what he gave us going forward when we were a little bit more stronger at the back. We need a defender now, and last season, I think hearts are ruling heads. He was poor last season. If we had somebody else, I would have dropped him if I was the manager last season. He wasn't doing his job. And it's that's sort of it for me. I think needs must. We are a relegation battle as we've been for a while, I think, and the second half of the season is going to be that for Everton. So I think we do need a defender. So, not completely, as I've said many a time, understanding the whole financial fair play side of things. The fact that we've sold somebody and we got 24 million in, which we should be able to spend along with the wages. I'm not that uncomfortable with it, but others will, mate. So, yeah, and that's... It's a lovely thing about footy, isn't it? You can just agree to disagree, and time will tell whether we've wasted money on a really dodgy Ukrainian fullback or whether we've invested well and got a kid who's going to serve us well for 10 years.
But I think just like to touch on what the manager said about them transfers is though, to come out and say he wants young and hungry players who want to come out and fight for that team. And that's what you want to. That's what you want to see, and that's what you need in that team. And you want them busting a gut out there, and they are only young, but I think if you can get them doing that, really fighting and showing what they're made of and wanting to make a statement, it'll only spur everyone on. Like Gordon's performance, imagine you can only imagine being stood behind him in the tunnel and seeing him fired up, and surely enough that'd be enough to get you going. So if you get a couple more doing that, then fingers crossed.
There's got to be balance though, hasn't there? There's got to be experience, because you look at when Seamus was learning his job, he started right mid, and he with Phil Neville behind him, and he became. He was playing. It was Billy Leftonoff on the left hand side in front of Baines at the time. It was something.
Spell that for us, Dawn.
I can barely say it. Never mind spell it. I'm pretty sure he was the left winger and Seamus was on the right, and Seamus developed loads because Phil Neville was talking to him constantly, and Bates was never a talker, was he? And Billy eventually, we'll just call him Billy, left. And I think with the young ones, it's good to have them in the mix. But if you look at the likes of Godfrey, he's young too, and he's clueless positionally. So I wouldn't want to back four with the left back, the right back, Godfrey in there, and another player, because we do need a good balance of experience and the youth. But the hungry youth, the likes of Dean come to us, didn't he, from a bigger team, and it's sort of a step down for them. Ideally, we want players who are taking a step up, or at least a sideways move.
Yeah. So time will tell, I guess, on that one. I mean, obviously this week, so the last couple of days has been round sort of, I think it started off as a part exchange, 15 million for El Ghazi. It's now looking as if it's a loan, whether there's some kind of option to buy at the end of it. Where are we sitting on that one?
It's hard, isn't it? Because he's not amazing. He's not awful. Can he come in and do a job? But I think so. I think he's got enough experience and enough about him to be able to do to do something. But is he what we need? No, I'm not convinced. But is it worth just getting another face in while you can for potentially next to nothing, who's got a bit of experience and can come on or get involved and do something?
Yeah,
probably. You know, we wouldn't have been the first name I wanted to pick. Probably wouldn't have been anywhere near it. But it's an experienced face in the Prem.
Yeah.
And, you know, I don't really know what else to say about it.
10 goals he got last season. Okay, a few of them were penalties, and he scored a few the season before. So he can clearly weigh in with a goal. I don't know. It's got to be worth a gamble, Dawn, if it's only a loan, is it?
He took the ball off Ings' toe last night when they needed to score, and you go, El Ghazi, your Ings in front of goal. What did you take it off his toe for, mate? But my questions are, how old is he, and can he play centre midfield? Because he's a winger, isn't he? 20. Is he only 26?
Apparently, yeah.
Oh, paper and love.
I know, absolutely. Whether he can play centre mid, I have not a Scooby-Doo. I'm like you. I don't know enough of him.
Could he be a good addition to a three in the middle, though?
Maybe.
Because then you've potentially got what I mean, better than Tom Davies, yeah. So Gomez, Decore, Allen.
It's not
fitting in it. No, I'm not saying he's better than them. But if one of them come off the last 20 minutes, he is a replacement, potentially better than the others who'd come on.
Yeah. Yeah.
Did you hear that Benitez doesn't want him, but Mashiri does, and the deal's been done with Mashiri? So, like, if that is true, and it could just be rumours, how does that work? Because obviously, if Benitez falls out with someone, they don't play. And like when Ancelotti didn't want players, like he obviously didn't want King because he didn't play him. How does that work?
I find it. I'm not saying you're wrong, but I find it hard to believe that Mashiri would have anything to do with it, because everything you see on that Simon Jordan and Jim White and that, they basically say Mashiri has nothing to do with it. He's not football minded. He's not really skilled on running the football club. He sort of leaves them to it, and by all accounts, they're in the know. So if that was true, I would be very, very surprised.
Yeah,
I'm not saying you're wrong, no. By the way,
I've seen it. I've seen it on Twitter, Dawn. I've seen the same stuff being put up.
Actually, I'm not on Twitter.
Yeah, but then the story's changed because originally it was like, yeah, it's Bashiri's doing it because it's the same agent who dumped or sold us Iwobi, and then they went, oh no, it's wrong. That's not right. So the story has a lot of sort of misconception about it, but who knows? Time will tell, won't it? Time will tell.
You see, as rumours go, though, on a more like holistic level, Mashiri apparently gets his fingers in all the pies and behind the scenes in the club. Because let's be honest, the club behind the scenes is an absolute shambles, and either he's brought in people that can't do those different roles, or he's getting involved in things he shouldn't. But one way or another, like, we are all over the place.
Yeah. No, I mean, if he's buying players, yeah, it is a little strange, isn't it? But
see, though, it's hard, though. Like, I know he gets a lot of criticism and Brands didn't work out too well. But that Brands was meant to be the one. He was meant to be, like, he was lauded over before he come to Everton, and now he probably won't get a job.
Yeah.
Sorry.
There's rumours, isn't there, about Brands made, I can't remember which way, how much money we spent last season. Brands was saying we can't spend that much money, and there was conversations like that where Ancelotti brought in players when it's Brands' job, and Brands was saying we're spending too much money, we haven't got financial fair play, we can't do that. But Mashiri was sanctioning it. So he's getting involved at that level to sort of disagree with the director of football. Well, what's he there for then? I know he's not there anymore, but just...
I believe, though, like, the biggest one for the finance, to where Koeman, who spent the most on crap.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of Ancelotti's were wages. Koeman was the one that brought in some shocking bars, wasn't it? You know, interestingly, one that was kicking our heads in on Saturday, wasn't it? For the Williams, you think he's got a cheek. There was 19 million that, you know, you could have got some decent players for. So yeah, it is interesting.
I've got to admit, I got a shirt with his name on. I
also tell you what,
Ruby on the back as well.
I'll tell you something with the board that's got to be a plus, and I'm not sure entirely what his role is, but Sharpie getting on board's got to be a bonus, hasn't it? Blue through and through.
Not if you listen to the In the Nose on Twitter now, it's just another nepotistic move by Everton, according to that.
Jobs for the boys.
Jobs for the boys, yeah. Another yes man on the board. You can write it all myself, you know. So
I think we give too much. It's great having ex-players who are passionate about the club. We've got some skills to bring in, whether it's coaching or whatever it is, in the right jobs. That's great. But we've got too many of them. You look at Unsworth and the under-23s, how that's run, the disconnect between the first team, that's one example. We give Jose Baxter a job because no one else would. And now we put Sharpie on the board. What's he bringing to the board? Yeah, it's good having a blue through and through, but what skills is he bringing? For us to be NSNO, for us to be the best and to try and get to the next level, we've got to have people, we've got to have square pegs and square holes. We've got to have the right places.
I don't understand why we have this thing with the young, the under-23s in the first team squad, because that under-23s is always on fire. They're always doing well, and they play five at the back and they're smashing it. Maybe they want to get some tips on him how to play five at the back, because they're always doing well. You've always got good players, and it's funny because we've talked about this before, and though none of them seem to like stay in our squad and do really well, they all seem to play at a decent level, but we just don't seem to get that.
Yeah,
Wayne Rooney again, I suppose. But Samuel's doing a job in the Prem, and you know, there's Lundstrom plays in the Prem, and Duffy plays in the Prem, and you know, loads of them do come through. But
I think it's they seem to go though a direction, don't they? They come out of Everton, they go down a league or two, they get hardened up, made into better players, and then come back up again. I think the ability to step from that under-23s league into the Premier League is too big. I think you like Scott, you know, there's very few players really make that jump up in one fell swoop. It's sort of get a grounding, go away and learn a trade, strengthen yourself up, and then people come back, and then people do go, oh, look, we missed him, we let him go. You know, it's a bit like the story, isn't it, that we had Haaland at Goodison when he was 15, apparently, and he was only here for a week. And the scout went, nah, he'll never be anything in. Like, he's the worst scout ever, but, you know, fair play to him. At 15, he might have well been rubbish. People mature at different times, don't they? So it's a lucky lottery. But just quickly putting us back onto the the transfers, because what worried me that on the Twitter universe is this allegedly that we're prepared to let Alan go out on loan. That's scary.
Sure. Surely not.
I would hope not, but yeah.
I wouldn't go back.
Yeah.
That's rubbish.
Honestly, if they let him go out on I wouldn't go back till the end of the season, because that'd be absolutely mind-boggling. That.
Yeah.
If Alan goes out on loan, I think Nick, you might have to dust your boots off, because who's going to play in centre mid? You know what I mean?
I know. I'm hoping this is just another numpty trying to get a few clickbaits on Twitter, trying to put a story out. But it certainly gathered a little bit of momentum, and a couple of, Everton sites, as they try to class themselves as, have claimed it. But yeah, I'm hoping it's ridiculous, because I actually thought he was one of the ones that did play quite well Saturday, and with the right balance in midfield, he'll only be better. But Holgate. Holgate. I was going to say, sure, Scott Holgate. Would you let him go? He's allegedly free to go.
I would. I would let him go. A couple of seasons ago, maybe not, but he just doesn't have any urgency for me. He's too slow to react on the ball, and he takes too much time and gets caught out, and his distribution's not the best. He doesn't really win much in the air, so I don't see what he's offering. I know the others haven't been great, but he's a weak link for me.
Dawn?
I think if you go back to when he first joined us, he had three games at right back. I think Seamus must have been injured, and he was outstanding. And then maybe the season after that, even when he threw Firmino in the crowd, he was probably one of the first defenders' names on the team sheet for me. And since then, he's got an earring. He keeps changing his hairdo, and he's got a strut. And since then, I honestly think some footballers are more in love with the fact that the footballers, and they've got that lifestyle, and actually love and playing football. Yeah. Do you know what I mean? You see some footballers that don't care about any of that stuff, and they absolutely love playing football, and surely that's what they're there to do.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So I suppose one of the more interesting transfers of the week, just to chew it up with your little generic, is Wood from Burnley to Newcastle for £20 million. I mean, I have to say, my jaw at the deck on that one. That does stink of desperation, or an idea of, well, let's buy Burnley's best player off them, then they won't get any more points than we do. Sit with that, 20 million for Wood. I think that's mad January, isn't it?
Did you see who else was on the list though? This is Eddie Howe. Solanke was on the list. Obviously, he bought Solanke from Liverpool and took him to Bournemouth, and he was absolute doggy. Yeah. And he was also on the list if he couldn't get Chris Wood. But that's a very good point. That's what City did apparently years ago. They take all players from teams around them to take some of their best players and get better. That's what we should do. I mean, there's lots of teams around us, though. We'd have to take one from every one of them, wouldn't we?
We'd be thrown out for financial fair play if we took all the players off the teams around us at the minute. But, I could probably just no more than just show that. Yeah, I think some of the transfers are going to be strange. I mean, Coutinho going to Villa. I'm not greatly disappointed. I think I might be proved wrong, but I think he'll be hit and miss.
Yeah, I agree with you.
Yeah,
I think. Do you know what? There was I know it's not a Liverpool podcast, obviously it's an Everton one, but there was a good quote Klopp said to him, wasn't he? He said, "Stay here and they'll probably build a statue of you." Yeah. And he's just been proved right. These players start off all right, don't really cut the mustard, do a few loans, sit there, take some dough, and he's ended up at Villa. Which isn't a bad thing playing for Villa, but he's had a fall from grace, hasn't he, really?
142 million, wasn't it? He went to Barca for.
Yeah. Then he went to Bayern Munich, didn't he? And didn't really do it at Bayern Munich as well on loan. They give him back. Yeah, you can have him back. Yeah, Gerrard might get a tune out of him because they apparently played in the same team together. Be interesting, but I don't know. I'm not sure about that one.
Did any of you manage to pick up on the Alexis Sanchez rumours?
Yeah, I saw that one. That worried me.
Surely not 33, is he? can't be coming this way.
33 and on a bigger wedge than James Rodriguez is on. So yeah, I wouldn't have thought so.
No chance.
No,
the other one, Barkley.
I
mean, apparently there have been talks about him coming, but I really don't understand for him or for us why.
Oh, sorry, I'm still here. I'm still here. Some
horror of Barkley coming back to Everton.
Do you know what?
Go on, you say it because I'm going to say it.
Well, you mightn't be, you know. I don't think it's a really, really bad idea. I don't, because if you want a player that's going to get, see, the problem we had with Barkley was I thought the managers at the time were giving him too much instruction. Right? I don't think he's fantastically clever. But if you want a player who you can say to, when you get that ball, you turn and you run. And if you can shoot, and if you can pass, and that is it. He will do that. He will get you up the pitch, and we would benefit from that.
I agree. I mean, I tend to think it's another massive gamble, and I would only probably take him on till the end of the season and make him play for some kind of contract. But if you could get that Barkley that went to Aston Villa at the start of last season and made Villa tick. You know, he was massively instrumental when they beat Liverpool. Was it 6-3, 7-3 or whatever the score was? 7-2 when they murdered them. He was brilliant for a month and a half. But then again, his head went back up his backside and he disappeared again. But if you can get a tune out of Barkley for 2 or 3 months after, you know, January, February, March time, he could be the difference between us getting a nice little safety mid-table position.
Imagine if he came and done a Kevin Campbell. Not necessarily same amount of goals, but put a couple in, few assists.
Yeah.
The thing I'd say is, on a positive note, he would walk into our centre midfield right now. He does have some quality. I think his decision making still leaves a lot to be desired. I think at Villa, him and Grealish really clicked, and Grealish would talk to him all the time, which helped. On a negative side, I think he left for a reason. He left because he was bullied by the Everton fans, because we want Evertonians to be the best players on the pitch, but we also are the biggest critics of them. So we destroyed his confidence. Then he shafted us for 15 million. And it would do nothing for his confidence and nothing for the boos in the stands if he come back.
I thought he left because he got sparked in Santa Chipito's.
He was messing with somebody else's girlfriend. That was the rumours, wasn't it? Allegedly, can you just say for the podcast, because we'll be in trouble for that one. And I think on that note, that's probably we'll ride our luck in relation to slander and libel attacks for the show, and draw it to a conclusion. I think sort of one last shout, really, if people have got nothing better to do on Friday night. It's the next round of the FA Youth Cup at Goodison Park, isn't it? Everton playing Sheffield United. Friend of the show, Danny Cadamatri, is manager of Sheffield United's youth side, so it'll be quite interesting. So
is that a Goodison, Nick? Is it?
That's a Goodison. So pay on the gate. 7
when
o'clock.
Was it?
This Friday night, 7 o'clock kickoff. So people are bored. Might be worth going down, watching a few of the young players of the future. Go and give them a shout. Don't boo them though. And on that note, my thanks to Dawn, who's braved a great show despite having a throbbing toothache. So well done, Dawn. It's Scott, as ever, even juggling his phone round. It's been great. Thanks again for listening, everyone. And we'll catch up with you next week. Cheers.
Good night.